talked to you before about how Mark Rutte said, even when this war's over, there will be no normalizing relations with Russia. So he is on record as being incredibly antagonistic to Russia. That is stupid. That is counterproductive to all of Western European security, because if you won't even contemplate going down a path to making something normalcy, then what do you have? When you're jacking up all your defense spending and you're pointing at the other guy as an evil, unremitted enemy that can't be even talked to, much less negotiated with, then all you are setting up the potential for conflict, and there's no off-ramp from it. We've shown that as an alliance and as a Western world, we have punted every off-ramp that there was. We have crushed it. We have destroyed it, no matter how many people die, no matter how much money has been wasted on this. That is where we continue to go with this. That is bad for our security. It's bad for our financial security, definitely bad for our national security. Because instead of going down a path that can lower tensions and create a condition where everybody can at least live together in some kind of modicum of normalcy, we keep it to where the only alternative is continuing to ramp up. Because I promise you, and I saw several comments from Russia, both from Sergei Lavrov and from Putin earlier today in one case, all they are very sharply focused on this. Believe me, they were paying attention to everything coming out of The Hague, and they are saying, look, this is not going anywhere good for us. We also have to take care of ourselves. We better increase defense spending. President Putin talked about how, look, the Oreshnik missile that there's no defense for in the West, it's now in serial production. We're continuing on, and I think he addressed 2 days ago a graduation of a military academy. And he says, listen, you guys have to focus on the future. We are, because we have some adversaries out there. So everybody's using the rhetoric, and then they're increasing defense spending, et cetera, on both sides of this line. This is heading in a bad direction. And it is basically a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Well, I mean, we're doing this to ourselves, like shooting our own selves in the foot. And if we don't be careful, we'll shoot ourselves in the knee, which is a lot worse. But let's look, since I'm still in London, by the way, so let's take a look at what the leader of London say, because he's one of the most influential in all of Europe, along with Emmanuel Macron, and he seems to be even more aggressive than Mark Rutte was.
The NATO summit sent a message of intent that will be heard around the world. But, Mr. Speaker, this must be joined by renewed support for Ukraine. Because if we let Putin succeed there, the deterrent effect on NATO's new plans would be fatally compromised. So I told President Zelensky at Downing Street on Monday that we will harden our resolve. We struck an agreement together to share battlefield technology, accelerating our support for Ukraine's defense, while boosting British security and British jobs.
Yeah, that's the British security, no. British jobs, yeah, that's kind of what he's focused on, and where all of his focus is at. And listen, if your focus is on jobs and on increasing defense spending as a means of economic advancement, then you'll get a tiny sliver of a sector of help, but you're going to do it at the cost of your country. That's something they've got to figure out with. But you keep seeing here that Starmer absolutely adamantly, is one of the leaders in NATO, is one of the leaders in Europe, is leading exclusively towards confrontation with Russia. Why would anyone want to follow someone whose only focus is on creating conflict and not going down even the path of diplomacy? It's not even a dual track. It's not like, we're talking with them over here, seeing if we can find any common ground. Maybe we can find a way to resolve this, but we have to have national defense. You could at least argue, all right, there's some logic behind that. What you can't argue is that there's any, well, I guess you can't say logic. There is a logic. It's just bad logic to say, no, we're going to take this track off the table. We're not even going to talk about diplomacy, and we're exclusively going to go down here. And then, in my view, again, one of the most irrational and immoral things that we can do as the West is that we keep pumping up Zelensky with something akin to a heroin addict. And we're going to keep giving you shots, just enough to keep you alive. But there is no amount. I mean, once you get somebody high and hooked on heroin, it's not like you can give them triple the dose. Give them a lot more, then you'll kill the patient that can't handle it anyway. Similar thing with Zelensky. There's only so much stuff you can give him because he doesn't have the manpower to use it. So even if you emptied all of your inventories and sent all of your armored divisions equipment, all of your airplanes, everything, and just gave it to Zelensky, he can't use it because he doesn't have the manpower. Russia does. So you have the leader, one of the leaders in Europe, so Keir Starmer, just telling everybody, telling Zelensky, we'll keep going with you, even though there's no military path. And I'm not aware of any genuine military person that claims, that believes otherwise. Unfortunately, I saw an American general a couple of days ago in testimony in the Senate that actually said, yeah, I think there's still a path for Ukraine victory. Either he's lying or he is fatally incapable. I don't know which is worse. I just know it's terrible either way, because that's a lie. It is grossly inaccurate. It has been validated and proven beyond any question on the battlefield. So to say otherwise is to say, no, keep giving that heroin addict more crack. He'll get by eventually. He'll get over it. Do a 12-step program later on. That's the equivalent of what we're telling them here. And I know you can see I'm a little bit aggravated about this because it is so clear. And there is so much physical evidence and you know, now 3.5 years of graphic proof. What I'm telling you is accurate. And yet these people keep going down a path that will lead to more death and destruction for Ukraine, and then set the stage potentially for war for us against an adversary that doesn't want to fight us and doesn't need to and has no intent to do if we don't keep pushing the line further up in there. So I want to show you one other thing, because this Zelensky here, because bolstered by all of this talk, if there's ever any theoretical hope that maybe he'll say, all right, I'm just looking at all the carnage here on the ground and the destruction of my people. I'm gonna do the right thing, and I'm actually gonna head out and just end this war. That was completely knocked out when Zelensky just said, yeah, I want to do more. Not only do I want to do, I'm going to set some conditions, and he got NATO to agree with him to set some conditions that virtually guarantee that there won't be any diplomacy between the two sides.
Some people, and understandably so, ask, what can a tribunal really do? Wouldn't it be better to focus entirely on weapons, technologies, and drones? Of course, military support for Ukraine, tough sanctions against Russia, political pressure on the aggressor are all essential. And these are the things that make Russia feel the true cost of this war. And yes, the aggressor must lose. And we are working on that. Ukrainian lives must be protected. And I thank everyone who supports our defense. But justice matters too. And it must work so that war criminals have nowhere to hide. Not in Europe, not anywhere.
So there you have it. So we want to set up a couple of things in a row here. We're going to say there's going to be a war tribunal, Nuremberg style deal after World War II for the loser in World War II, the Nazi Germany. We're trying to set up from a position of gross weakness and incapacity on the Ukraine side that we want the losers to have a tribunal for the victors. That's like Hitler from his bunker saying, yeah, I'm going to bring up the American president and the leader of UK. We're going to bring them up on charges afterwards. And Joseph Stalin, yeah, we're going to throw all of them on a tribunal. Obviously, they'd look at each other like, this dude is like lost his mind, and then they'll continue going forward until they destroyed the German armies, because that did happen. And we're on a path for that same thing to happen here. And all you do with this kind of rhetoric, and then add that Russia must lose. That was so disturbing that he's still saying that. If you needed any proof that Zelensky was delusional and detached from reality, that was your money quote right there. Russia must still lose. That's what he's still saying. And the worst part of it, truly, I think the worst part of it, is that after he made those comments, another minute or two after the video, a raucous applause, standing ovation. People were just cheering in all these European countries and all these parliamentarians. So they are just as deluded. Are they that stupid? Are they that blind? Have they been deceived by alleged people like Starmer and some of these others that feed them information, like this American general that claimed, yeah, there's a path to victory here. And so, yeah, we appreciate you doing this. All you're doing is signing the death warrants for more of the people you claim to want, and you're putting a target on the back and potential war on your own back. That's the problem here, is that we're moving toward the potential where there could be war for all of us, not just for a destructive continuing war, a finishing war on Ukraine.